Call this March 20th, 2025 budget meeting or budget work session to order. First, we're going to have the first citizen forum. Citizens are requested to keep their comments to 3 minutes. Any citizens? Nope. Now we'll turn it over to Karen.
All right, so last budget work session, we went through all departments, we went through all capital and made a few changes. So I thought we could quickly go through the changes made, not quickly, but, you know, as we go through, if you have any questions, let me know. The packet I gave you tonight, I'm gonna go over that first. And what that is just a memo of the changes from last week to this week. And then we can go department by department if you would like and kind of concur on where we are and see if you need changes. So the first memo sheet, general fund revenues. The only thing changed in here would be adding the $30,000 in revenue for the medical cannabis sales tax distribution. That's on page 4. And again, we'll go through the budget. I just want to kind of go over this separately. In the budget, I've highlighted the lines that these changes go with so that you can easily find it. For A10 legislation, Ashley Kaiser had asked about the donation to the Queen Anne's County Arts Council for the porch party. That was made May 8th, 2024, and when she gets in, I'll let her know. But it was in the previous fiscal year, so that's why she didn't see it on this fiscal year's payments. A70 planning and zoning had no changes. A81 municipal buildings, which is 105 North Liberty, had no changes. A92 Department of Administration, page 8, just a few changes. We added the code enforcement officer to half-time. Crystal also did calculations for full-time because of the discussion last week, so we can go over that when we get there. We updated the health insurance cost. I had originally put in 10%. Crystal had gotten a 3 to 5% from the actuary, so I went with 6%. Just to be safe still, but lower the expectation of 10, so you'll see that.
And she has that meeting on Monday.
Yeah.
So we'll find out the actual number Monday.
So hopefully next Friday's work session will have the actual rates.
I'm not coming Friday for a work session. Friday?
Thursday, jeez. Y'all see
I
what?
can't help it, kid.
All right, B10 Police Department. We added 5,000 to the special events line based on trend. And we also updated the health insurance from 10 to 6. Goodwill Fire Department, B22, had no changes. C11 Streets Department, I had adjusted a typo I had in salary that Crystal made me aware of. And the health insurance was updated from 10 to 6%. When you adjust salary and health insurance, it also changes the allocation of cost transfer from general to enterprise, so that is updated as well. C22 Waste Removal had no changes. D10 Parks and Playgrounds had no changes. H40 Main Street, I had added the FY26 budget lines to the revenue. So what I did is I had put the expense line in, but not the revenue. So I just added that in so you could see it. Carol also will be here tonight to present and discuss any questions you guys had regarding to Main Street. I think once Ashley's here. H60 Cemetery had no changes. H90 Watershed had no changes. Enterprise Fund Revenue had no changes. 7C21, the Sewer Department, I adjusted a typo in the salary, updated the health insurance from 10 to 6%, and of course that which adjusts the allocation. For 7C24 Water, the same exact changes, the typo in salary, the health insurance, and the adjustment of allocation. The farm had no changes made. The capital budget only change was adding the cemetery software implementation costs that we discussed last week. And then the final piece, Jim had asked about the interest rate for the bond, so I put that on page 2 of the memo just so you guys would have that. Any questions so far about the memo and the changes? All right. So if you look at page 1 of the general fund summary sheets, the general fund is in the black, 91,657, so that would be a transfer to fund balance. And page 2 is the enterprise fund. Again, its budget is in the black with a transfer to fund balance of 47,768. All right, as we go to page 3, which would be the operating fund revenue, you'll notice on page 4, the highlighted yellow line is just the increase, adding the 30,000 to revenues for the cannabis sales tax. Does anybody have any questions about general fund revenues at this time?
So, excuse me, the increase of 30 came from where?
So that will be our first, so that will be our first full year, so I'm basing it off trend off the,
22, sorry, I'll let you finish.
so what I did is I kind of based it off, we've received 2 or 3 quarters thus far, and we may receive 1 more payment, so, sorry. All right, any other general fund revenue questions? All right, page 5, A10, legislation. The only question on here last time was about the porch party, which I'll remind Ashley when she comes. Anybody else have any questions on A10?
In the porch party, that was $1,000.
That was in, under donations, the Arts Council had came and requested a donation, it was $500.
500, okay.
And that payment was made in May of 2024. All right, page 6 is A70, planning and zoning. Just a reminder, we reduced the contract services line to try to get a full-time zoning administrator, which we put in A92, and increase the safety and education based on planning commission to attend the conference. So any questions on A70? Page 7, A81, municipal buildings. There was no change except the liability insurance. Crystal did get that the increase will be 12.1% this year. So those have been adjusted in the individual budgets accordingly. So that's the one increase you see there. Any questions on that? All right, page 8, A92, you'll see a couple highlights. The salary line now has the half-time code enforcement officer added in. The health insurance was reduced from 10 to 6% based on actuarial information.
So if I can ask, that 4% difference yielded a little over 14,000.
Correct.
So say $3,600 per 1% in this department.
Yes.
So policy-wide, roughly what is each percent savings yield? Each percent lower of that cost?
Go ahead.
I mean, the total at 10%, the total at 6. If you
I would
compare those
say,
two.
Oh, are you talking about for the health insurance?
Yeah,
Yeah.
sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought we were on the salary line.
That's
So
all
I
right.
was trying to figure it out.
I would say in police and administration, you're probably looking at $300 to $4,500. As you get in the smaller departments, you're probably,
But globally, I mean, the whole policy.
oh, as an overall.
Overall,
Yeah.
savings.
Going from 10
Well,
to,
from what was budgeted, I mean,
Yeah.
so yeah, you're probably looking at,
I would say 10 to 12 grand in the general
Yeah.
fund and maybe 2
There's
grand.
14 right there.
Oh, I'm sorry, not thinking, that's 1%. I'd have to add them. Yeah, each
12%
one,
Per 1%.
yes.
Got it,
Yes,
that's what I was after.
sorry.
sorry,
Yeah,
yeah.
Sorry, Crystal, if I.
It's okay.
I'll ask the question more clearly next
No,
time.
that's all
sorry.
right. All right, and page 9 just shows where the allocation cost changed based on changing the health and benefit information. Ashley is here, so I just wanted to go to the memo real quick and give her that update on A10. I had went back and looked at legislation where you'd asked about the porch party donation at the last meeting. So the the donation was made in May of '24, so
okay.
it would have been the
Got it.
previous year. We are on page 10. Ashley, I put a memo on the front of the packet, just shows you every change made. If you want to go back to any of them, just let me know. All right, page 10, B10 Police Department. We added the special events of 5,000 along with the trend for this year. Again, we updated the health insurance from 10 to 6%, and that's the only difference you'll see in here.
Sorry, remind me what the special events is for, I'm forgetting, the 5K.
The special events is for anything town-sponsored, anything the police department may attend, where we will have people that set up tables for the events. We hand out swag and certain pamphlets and stuff to the community.
Right, right.
So some of that special events money covered some of the swag we had to buy this year that we were in low stock. Some of that money in the actual expenditures of this fiscal year were for events that don't occur annually. So that's why I was a little leery about adding the 5,000. Some of the events, we had an award ceremony. It doesn't occur every year, it's every other year, so some of that money went into that.
That's okay, so it's it's getting us up to where you're spending today, February.
Yes, and actually, I was gonna just make that number an even 5,000, but we decided to, looking at this year's spending, that we were gonna just add it, instead of just making it even 5,000, we just added to what we already had.
I'm supportive of that, so
Yeah,
I'm glad
that's
to see
fine.
that.
Thank you.
Any other questions for police department? All right, page 12, fire department, there were no changes. Page 13, streets department. The changes you'll see are the adjustment to salary because of the typo I had, the decrease in health insurance from 10 to 6%, and then the next page, obviously, the allocation of cost transfer to enterprise fund changed based on the benefits changing.
And what percent rate are we allocating now?
5% is what we put in for this year. The salary includes, obviously, the superintendent and the director. Some of their salary was moved to water and sewer, and also a part-time seasonal position was added for FY '26. Any questions for the streets? Okay. Page 16 is waste removal. There were no changes. We are on the final year of the contract, so Kip will probably start working on an RFP for the next FY '27, I would say probably at the end of this year. Kip, correct me if I'm wrong, but,
About December, yeah,
okay.
December of next year.
Any questions on waste removal? Page 17, Parks Department. No new changes from the previous work session. So any questions for that? Okay, page 18 is Main Street. The only change here is I had not listed the revenue and I didn't highlight it, so my apologies. On the revenues piece at the bottom, I didn't have the FY '26 budget listed. It now is. And then Carol is here tonight to discuss anything. I know you
Yeah, I mean, do we
asked.
have the deeper breakdown that I asked for?
Did you have any of the breakdowns printed from the activity?
Like, do you have copies for us?
So when you're showing revenues here on page 18, that's for information purposes because it's actually calculated on the revenue tab.
It is, correct. I
Got it.
I try to keep hers together so you
Yeah,
can
yeah.
see.
Yeah, I just wanted to see, like, where does
Right.
it come from? What is an individual event net? That sort of level of detail.
What I will say also is I took a look at,
We need you at the microphone before you can talk.
I actually have one set of, for Drink Maryland, one set for, so I don't have copies. So you can, that's since the beginning of all the events I've done. That's Centreville Day, and this is Drink Maryland.
And we just have one copy of it?
I'm sorry, I didn't know you needed.
That's the other event.
All right.
But
I mean,
also,
we all, I mean, okay, we can do this, but difficult if I'm the only person with it in front of me.
so what entails revenue in my lines are corporate sponsorships, advertising for the circular, and vendor fees for events. So if I look at my complete budget and look at the revenue I brought in and expenditures, so of course, each of those events have expenditures that need to be offset. Once upon a time, we were very close to offsetting almost all. particularly with events like Centerville Day. Those days are gone. Since 2020,
Centerville Day, if anyone wants
it's really much harder. All those expenses have gone up. And at the same time, my budget has remained flat, and I've been raising money to offset that. But so if you look at,
So we might want to do this at a time that we can all have this in front of us. Like, I find this really difficult. I would like it in front of me, and I don't want to
I
be the only
understand.
person that has it. I also just want to say, I'm okay with like Centerville Day not making money. I want to be super clear. Like, there are some things that are good of the community. Fireworks certainly do not make money, for example. There are some things that we do because they provide a community service. The chief isn't out there selling kid stickers with Centerville Police Department on them. There's some things that we do that just cost money, and that's a good thing. I have a different opinion about Drink Maryland, though. And that event being a net negative is a real struggle for me. And so, like, I think everyone needs to have this in front of them for us to have this conversation, because I'm seeing that Drink Maryland cost us $3,400 last year, and I struggle with what's the benefit that's worth that $3,400.
can I address my full budget, make just a few comments?
I mean, sure, but it's a struggle for me to talk about your full budget without everyone having
Sure,
the deeper understanding.
Let me ask this question.
Sure.
Do the numbers that are in detail here, do they tie to the numbers in the budget?
correct,
The summary, okay, good.
yes. I
Some
will,
of her stuff comes in like bouncing fiscal year, so
Yeah,
sometimes,
no, I
you know.
understand that,
Yeah.
yeah. That's why I appreciate the event breakdown, because that would reflect that.
absolutely, absolutely. Now, the two events are just two pieces of what Main Street does. Main Street's not an event-driven, we do events because it's part of placemaking, providing that lovable places, as Main Street likes to say, and also bringing in visitors. But that's a fraction of what I do. So a lot of my work is geared towards direct and indirect support of our businesses in order for us to really move ahead and make sure that we are drawing more businesses here. We have to keep the ones that are here healthy and growing. So the vast majority of my work is geared towards that. So things like the circular and advertising promotions and things that I do with our businesses, and not just the businesses in our 8-block Main Street area. I work with all businesses in some cases, and I can just remember once, 2021, the large grant, the micro grants that we gave out, they were only available to Main Street businesses. But the vast majority of my work is for all businesses within the town limit. So I do serve everyone. And, keeping our businesses growing and healthy, I think is a good thing. And I just want to give my numbers. So as far as efficiency goes, yes, I bring in money, and I think I should be using the taxpayer money wisely and efficiently. And I do the best that I can with that. So we were able, in this past fiscal year, bring in $65,005.60. And we spent $58,857.55. So we are using our budget, and I always look for ways to be more efficient and make sure we're serving everybody in the town. Thank you.
Appreciate that.
And I'll come back with some more detail. Is there anything else that you would like me to focus on next time?
Just, once we take a look at these, yeah?
Yeah, like, to me,
Sure.
the overall budget's okay with me, and I fully appreciate the value of Main Street, to be super clear. I just want to make sure we're using our time wisely. So if there's time that's being spent on an event that admittedly I have other problems with, that's a net negative, that could be spent supporting the brick and mortar businesses in town, then maybe that's part of the calculation after this year's event when we talk about whether or not that continues. Like, the ship has sailed, we're going to do it this year, got it, fine with that. I just, I don't like us to waste our time, that's all. And I know you don't want to waste your time either, Carol, so.
Thank you.
And you can just send this to us electronically too, so that everyone can review it that way.
Absolutely.
Totally fine.
Would you like to add to the agenda for next Friday, next Thursday?
She's stuck on Friday.
I am stuck on,
We're
yeah.
not meeting next Thursday, right? Or am I just not meeting? I thought there wasn't one next Thursday.
There is, oh,
Okay, I won't be here, but that's okay.
So, do we have
hold on, I'm pulling up the
I thought it was in 2 weeks.
You're right,
2 weeks.
Before the next, yeah.
2 weeks,
QC meeting.
April 3rd.
Yeah.
April 3rd.
My
I
apologies.
wouldn't be here next Thursday either.
Yeah.
for work.
I'm gonna be in Disney World, and as much as I love y'all, I'm not calling in.
Or Friday, we're not gonna be here Friday.
We're not here Friday either.
And I really think where we're at in the budget, I think April 3rd could be our final work session, because we should have solid numbers on everything. Like I said, the only thing we're really waiting on right now is health insurance, we're supposed to get Monday. So, granted, if you want 4 work sessions, by all means, we can have 4. I'm not opposed, I just think we're in a good place this year.
And while we're kind of at a little time, I just wanted, since Ashley missed that part, the A92 budget, the numbers are baked in for the halftime code enforcement. Crystal has numbers for a full-time, but the budget includes the halftime, just so you're aware of that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Carol. Did you want her on the April 3rd agenda just to kind of go over what she emails, or?
Yeah. I think, you know, I see Main Street as like, kind of like a department head, right? It's a little bit of its own thing, so if you can be here, we appreciate it. Awesome.
Okay. All right, page 19, H60 is the cemetery, no changes. Any questions on that? All right, H90, page 20, this is our watershed. There were no changes. Page 21 is enterprise fund revenues. Again, there were no changes. Please, if you have questions, please stop me. I'm not trying to go so fast.
No, you're fine.
Page 23 is sewer department. Same as a few of the others, the salary, I had a typo, so I adjusted that. The health insurance was taken from 10 to 6% based on the actuarials, and the allocation of cost transfer from general to enterprise obviously was adjusted with that. Those were the only changes. And then page 26 has the exact same changes, which is the water department. Sewer and water usually are 50-50 on most things. And page 29 is the farm, and there were no changes from the previous work session. So as far as operating budget goes, is there any questions that you guys have? Anything we missed, anything you want adjusted? Council President, if you want to talk about code enforcement, like Carolyn said, we do have halftime in there.
Yeah, why don't we talk about that?
Okay. If you want, we can go to A92,
Which is on what page?
which would be page 8.
Let me interject if I can.
Okay.
The fact that the changes are so limited is a real compliment to every department head,
Yes.
town manager, and you for presenting such a sound budget in the first place.
I think this process has gotten better every year
Yes.
that I've been up here.
And the reporting has gotten better every time.
And if I can understand it, it's really done in a way that anyone is good to go. So I appreciate it.
All right, so the salary line in A92 on page 8 has the addition of a full-time zoning administrator and now has code enforcement at halftime. Crystal does have the numbers for full-time. I didn't know if you guys wanted to discuss the code enforcement and
Yeah.
how you wanted to see that.
I think there's some case to be made for either way, certainly. Where are we, and apologize if I missed this at the beginning, on overall budget as it stands right now? Like with the halftime in and all the other changes?
90,000
In the book.
surplus, general fund, 40-something thousand surplus, enterprise fund.
Okay, yeah, great.
Yep. So with halftime in, everybody's in the black and there is a transfer to fund balance at a year.
Great.
And our fund balance is insanely high.
Or reduce the tax rate by a penny.
Which would then put the general fund in the whole 30,000 and.
What? I don't know. Maybe I'm confused about how they calculate that, because, I don't know, I was looking at the, our tax base times,
120,000 per 1 cent.
based on, okay, well, how do you figure that out?
You take the estimated assessable base of $731,578,338
yeah,
and multiply it by the tax, so 53 and a half, 52 and a half.
Divide by 100 first.
Yes, yeah, divide by 100 to account for the $100 of every $100 of assessable base.
all right. And then do what? And then a penny is, no,
Approximately 120,000
okay.
either way.
I
So
don't know.
if we
I come
went
up with
up,
73,000, so where's, I'm confused.
so if you reduce it a penny, it's gonna take the general fund in the hole by the amount of the difference. So it would go down, let me use my calculator, hold on. Make sure I'm not off a little.
120,000 minus,
731.
91,000 minus 120,
So
so,
like 29,000.
yeah.
I guess I'm not getting the 120. I understand that you subtract.
No,
but-
that's why let me do
Yeah.
it.
I got that part, but I
The
don't,
what
I
a
don't
penny's
understand the
worth, yeah.
120,000 since every time I come up with 73,000, so.
Oh, okay, so that, let me look then and see if my.
Yeah.
53.
I think you could probably also take the 5.2 million shown on page 3 as total property tax and divide by 53.5.
Yeah. And it is, it's 77,000. I think it was 100 and some thousand last year, and that's where I was,
77,000 if we lowered a penny.
if you lowered a penny.
So if we got rid of fireworks.
Yep.
And
Next.
Just the,
And I'm doing it, because I just,
You're doing just the real property,
Yes.
not utilities,
Yeah.
sorry, that was
Yeah.
my mistake.
Okay, you gotta explain that to Mayor Martin. We're canceling fireworks.
times points.
all right, code enforcement, and then we can figure out, let's set our intentions around priorities, and then we can determine what we can afford to do. So code enforcement going from 10 to 20 hours, I think is gonna be a noticeable increase. I also think the inclusion of the zoning administrator allows for some of the heavier lift code enforcement to fall on that person. So I personally feel comfortable doing the halftime, and then as always, at mid-year, we could say this isn't working out.
Yep.
And we need this to go to full-time. I think it's a little harder if we hire a full-time person to say, just kidding, your job's actually only 20 hours a week. And it's easier to go up than down when it comes to a human being, in my opinion. So I would be in favor of a halftime person, and like, nobody loves the idea of code enforcement more than me. I don't know that we're at a place to go to full-time. I think we need to spend a lot of time doing education, and I think some of that needs to be the zoning administrator, because it needs to come, from like a heftier place, someone with a position that's got some teeth behind it, ability to enter property, ability to.
Yeah, I think, I mean, I agree, because I'd spoken at the last budget meeting and town council meeting. Enforcement is something that a lot of residents talk about. Like, I see this, I see that, he's enforcing this, and it's just because we don't have the labor in order to do that. So I think it's important that we have it, and I'm fine with a 0.5, then going to a full-time if needed. But, I just think it's important. It came from residents at the last town council meeting. I see this, I see that. And then as well as one-on-ones, I'm sure we're all hearing from people, depending on what committee you're in, associated with it. So I think it's important, again, just for making certain we have compliance with ordinances and resolutions we already have on the books. Just like anything relating to government, how are you enforcing what you have on the books already? So I think this kind of, enforces that aspect.
Yeah, and as we do things, so, we have some work to do on the trailer bill, but I think we should come up with something in that realm. We have some work to do, I think, on the sign code and some things, and talking to Kara on the planning commission, she had a good suggestion to enter into essentially like a mini public works agreement for each electronic sign, so that when they're non-compliant, we have like a written contract with the owners of these electronic signs about compliance, so there's something that we can really do about it if they're non-compliant. And so I think, as we get more sophisticated, there'll be more work to do, for sure. Does anybody really want to push to go to full-time in that position?
No, I think we should go halftime and then reassess.
Yeah.
If we can't get anything done in the 20 hours, I think we should.
Yeah, we'll reassess at mid-year.
A question I've asked for a dozen years sitting up here is, what does everybody else do? So I wonder what other towns on the shore, what sort of staffing level they may have, and I doubt anybody has that answer sitting right here, but it may be something to look into to.
I don't know all the towns along the shore. I can tell you the towns in Queen Anne's County from going to the COG meetings, most of them don't have a code enforcement officer.
At all?
Just within, I think, the last year or two, there were some that were like, one was hired and he's doing a couple different, or that person, I don't know if it's a him or not, a couple different, towns. But I don't think any of the other towns have a full-time, at least in Queen Anne's County. So, and I also am not sure, I think one town may have don't quote me, I think one town may have Queen Anne's County code enforcement do their code enforcement as well, so.
We're the largest town in the county, I think, so just within the county may not be a good barometer, but
Some,
Houston, Greensboro.
Yeah, I can look.
yeah, Chestertown, I'd be curious. Some of,
For Denton,
Yeah, Denton.
Denton definitely has code enforcement,
Yes.
like probably full-time
Great
code
call, yeah.
enforcement, but they also have other things that I think we need, like a rental registry and vacant house rules.
Absolutely.
Like those sorts of things. So they definitely have full-time person managing that, but it's out of their planning and zoning. So I think, it could very well be their zoning administrator. I don't know, but they're very quick to enforce things, which is a good thing. I think part of our problem is how confusing so many of our things are. And we've been making incremental progress on like cleaning up the violations and on, as it gets easier to understand, then hopefully it's easier to educate the public and then we would have less violations. And we're catching up from years of inadequate enforcement. But there'll be a point, hopefully, where we change behavior. And then it'll become easier. And then there's some things that are going to become a police matter, right? Like if people are habitual offender, we might have to engage the Centreville police
Escalate it.
because people take that more seriously maybe than code enforcement. So I would just kind of like to get a zoning administrator in place, get more hours of code enforcement, and then reevaluate.
Yep.
Keep cleaning up the code in ways that make it easier for people to understand. I mean, I think any business owner would have a massive challenge figuring out the sign code at present.
Yeah.
yeah.
Like, I remain confused about that.
All right, so we're good for the next work session to leave halftime code enforcement and zoning administrator.
Yep.
All right. The only other department that had a position added would be the streets department, and that would be page 13, and just didn't know if you had questions. It's a part-time seasonal position, from April to September, 40 hours a week. And I didn't know if you had any questions for Kip on that, or are we okay with that as well, continuing into next work session?
That's fine with me.
It's fine. Good. Yeah.
All right, so as Dan brought up, I just wanted, so the 100 and some thousand I was using, that's the one, every 5% for the cost allocation transfer. So the actual cost, every penny would be $73,157.83. If you do that, general fund, yes, would still be in the black, would be very, very close in the black. And where the rate was not raised for so many, many years. I really think going back, I think that goes backwards. I'm not saying, savings to the residents, I get it. I pay property tax too. I totally get it. But those are just my 2 cents. I didn't know if you wanted, before we went to capital, to have that discussion about the property tax rate right now.
We've all experienced such an increase in our assessed value this year that
Yes.
It would be worthy of discussion to think about lowering the rate. And the constant yield number was what? It was like 50 cents,
Yeah, 5022.
50.5022.
Right,
Yep.
so 3 cents below where we are.
right.
So yield hearing would have to be done based on the fact that we're not changing from the previous year. So at least we won't have to do that either way.
I mean, overall, what I think is a good thing from that is that we have not grown this budget in such an unreal pace, even given that everything is way more expensive right now. And so it's another testament to the town that we're only a few cents over the constant yield. So we're only, I'm so bad at math, y'all, but like $225,000.
For the three,
Yeah, like total budget growth.
Yeah.
That's not bad, considering we're intending in this budget to provide a lot of additional services to the town.
Is PAYGO somewhere in the summary? Is that
Capital.
included in the 91,000?
for the capital.
Is it already taken out? Okay.
And so, reducing or increasing, leaving the same, if anything breaks, anything happens, it doesn't leave a whole lot of room for error.
Right, and I think that's kind of where I am as far as cushion, because I've done a lot of budgeting in my lifetime, and you don't know what will happen. As far as anything happening, some extraordinary event, we just don't know. I mean, there could be flooding or something that major happens. I mean, that is happening more and more, just as an example. But if we had some catastrophic type thing that happened in which the town had to spend their resources that wouldn't be reimbursed by the federal government or the state. You know, this is just, again, there's not a lot of wiggle room in this budget if things should go south. And so, and then I think, again, I've only been on the council for a short period of time, but as far as these future budgets that are going to be in front of us, I think they're going to be more challenging as it relates to the wastewater treatment plant. And so if we kind of do this and then we go back and forth, so kind of that, I think that's not appropriate, and I think we need to create some cushion associated with what we know is coming ahead of us relating to a wastewater treatment plant. That's right.
Well, the general fund can't support the wastewater plant.
No, that's,
So
no, right.
it'd be the enterprise fund that does that.
That's
But,
true, that's true.
you know, our reserves right now are, what, 100% of our revenue?
Yeah, yes, absolutely, in the bank.
Yeah.
And the ARPA fund's still sitting in the ARPA balance, you know, like, which essentially that will transfer over to general and enterprise based on where the expenses came from. But it's still in there and earning interest, and we have a really good interest rate, so we're just continuing to build.
So most municipalities look at a 10% of revenue in their balance as good, as healthy. And we're at 100%. So
I do remain really,
that's our cushion if
Yeah, if
a
a
disaster would
catastrophic
strike.
I do remain really concerned that income tax receipts will be low. That,
And I
you
didn't
know, we're headed
adjust-
into a recession, and
Yeah,
what does that look like? Which on the flip side, people getting relief on their tax bills, if we're headed into a recession, is a good thing also, so I could see both sides of it.
Yeah, I think there's just a lot of uncertainty in front of us. I mean, at every level, you know, municipalities, state, federal, just, we don't know what's coming, you know, we just don't know. And, so that would be just my only hesitation at this point, at this time of budget, but my initial reaction.
Yeah, I'm in the same place as you. I wish I felt differently. Like, I wish I felt like it's a great time to cut taxes, but I just don't.
And local income tax, I did not add a whole lot this year, just because I had the same thoughts
Yeah.
as you did. I just went I talked with the county, and they usually do 1% to 2%, so I kind of just went there.
I mean, I hope I'm so wrong. I hope every household in the town has a bang-up year, but I just worry that that's not going to be the case.
Well, I think we get bigger complaints about the 5%, automatic 5% increase on the water and sewer
Oh,
bills that
big
we
time.
do about anything to do with our
Yeah.
real estate taxes, but, you know,
And certainly that 5%,
not giving them a break at
Barely.
all, so.
yeah, you know.
If I'm looking at the numbers right, our income tax projection is about 9% of total revenue.
Yes.
So it could fluctuate quite a bit and not have an overwhelmingly material impact on total revenue.
And I'm watching it overall in the current fiscal year as well. Even the county had went a little higher than normal last year based on trend. And so Carolyn and I went back and forth a lot. So I'm watching how our current fiscal year is as well. Granted, we don't see a lot of the funds until the last 3 to 4 months of the fiscal year, so, but I am watching it.
Okay, well, I think something for us all to think about maybe for the next, that's like like one of the last big decisions out there.
So I'll currently leave it as is for the next work session, and
Yeah, we have that number, so it's
Yeah.
not difficult for us to envision. what
Yeah,
that- what a cut would look
either
like.
way that we go.
Yeah.
So you're concerned about the water sewer plant?
Yeah, I
Right?
think, and then other
I'm with you on
uncertainties,
that, yeah.
as far as other uncertainties associated with, because again, I mean, you have kind of I could ask the staff, what gives you some anxiety about what you budgeted this year? And, well, I hope I make that number, you know, because that's another thing too, associated, we've looked at trends some too, but as far as just, you know, is there some areas that, you know, because again, you brought us a budget that was above break even, right? Which is great, but, you know, are there any things in the line items, and I would look at you from finance to say, where is there, again, that, you know, maybe in the back of your mind, this could happen here, here, or here, you know, that could easily switch this like that.
And to me, the two departments would be streets possibly, you know, with the potholes and some of the weather, how crappy the roads have become, not just based on weather, but then you got the water and sewer side as well. The new plant, I think the new plant is gonna cost more to run than the current plant, and so trying to focus our needs there, but to me, like, if I'm looking in the general fund, the streets department, and maybe police would be the two that I would kind of like, they scaled back, you know, a little bit, but just to be safe, having that little bit of cushion is,
Just so that you folks are clear, we haven't done repaving of some of the streets that we have. And I would ask that each one of you take a drive down Windsor Avenue, Glendale Avenue. You know, start looking at how many patches there are in the street. You know, we haven't even started to talk about putting the streets on an accelerated schedule. And you're already talking about reducing the taxes that would go in the general fund. We're just now, as far as I'm concerned, in a comfortable place compared to where we were 5 years ago. And now you're already talking about maybe reducing. Well, that fund budget is gonna start getting hit with road mill and overlays, with street reconstruction. We're just lucky that we got $2 million to do Belvedere and Tillman from congressional earmark spending. That's gone. Everybody that we're talking to is saying that's not gonna happen again for a number of years. So,
and
you know, like I said,
HUR
right
money.
there, and that's
Yeah.
two
How we use
streets,
the revenue,
and
yeah,
that
it's
$2 million
gonna
doesn't
be
cover
gone.
Yeah.
the entirety of it, so.
The HUR money, you went down many years ago.
Yep.
It's slowly creeping up, but we're still only getting 300 and some thousand a year, that you can't even do one road. if
But
you
next
look at
year
the
is
list.
gonna be
Next year's
probably
gonna be bad, yeah.
nothing.
It was fully funded today, HUR was.
But that's for, I think you're saying a year from now.
Yes.
I mean, the state's got
2027.
another budget shortfall
2027.
they're staring down.
2027.
And it's only expected 300 and some thousand for
Okay.
this fiscal year. That wouldn't even do a road, I don't think.
Yeah, but you're talking about a lot of money. I mean, to do a street, over $1 million, right? A penny's $73,000. I mean, to make that up, we'd have to increase taxes 10 cents, and it's just
Yeah.
not gonna happen. So,
No, I'm not.
No, but it's,
right.
no,
Oh,
but
I'm sitting up here.
So where are we gonna get the capital budget from, you know, the capital to
just
do that.
reducing, when you
Right.
reduce it and the yield you lose for the rest of 10 years, like if you calculate that over a 10-year period is,
Well, we're talking 2 years, really. I mean.
But you
I assume we're
also
gonna-
have to look at, you've
Right.
got two developments on each end of town.
That are
Those
due.
streets are over 20 years old.
Yeah.
Guess what? Now they're needing to be mill and
No, I know.
overlaid, so we're gonna pay for it.
So do we do those streets, or do we do streets like Belvedere, Windsor, and Glendale that have been suffering for how many years?
Yeah.
As long as I've been here,
Yes.
so it's 13 plus.
Yeah.
Go
I was
with
back
his
there today.
Huh?
They're bad.
Go
We go
with
with
his
his recommendation, yeah.
So
All right.
one of the things that makes Karen so good at her job is that every year that I've seen her budget and seen her results, there's always a surplus. And I think that's because she's a good budgeter and is conservative in both directions in terms of the revenue and expenses. And I hope that department heads aren't feeling like they need to hold back on spending money when the money's in the budget. We've approved it. It's not use it or lose it, but
Yeah.
so, the track record here is that there's always been a bigger surplus when the final accounting is done than what shows up in the original budget. When she brings back budget amendments, she increases the handful of line items where they did go through, but the budget amendments, as I understand and I recall, they never retract money. Those are always savings that show up at the bottom line at the end of the year.
correct, yep.
About a
Usually-
year ago was $700,000
Yeah,
left
yeah.
over. Now, there were extenuating circumstances, I get it.
Yeah, and things happen, and like the department heads and Carolyn and I sat together this year and I kept saying to them, is there anything else? I was like, do not, and they were good about going through the capital and all their needs, so I really feel like they put in what they needed. And, correct me if I'm wrong, but I mean, I feel like we really had good work sessions with them, so.
Good.
Awesome. All right, so capital and then,
Yeah, and so after your operating budget, there's 2 pages of capital. The only change you're gonna see on that is the one highlighted in yellow, which was the information cost for the cemetery software. That has been added, and it's added in the summary sheet, so it's already inclusive of the budget you received tonight. And I didn't know, any other questions that you guys had on capital?
I do, just from our last meeting, I just want to make certain, it says what's disclosed on these sheets tonight, and what, as far as, that was in our book class for 2026, which is some of the things that we're talking about here tonight, and maybe it's just getting funded through other funds, but the Tillman and Belvedere were on your 2026 here.
Yep.
So
That's the federal earmark money.
that's gonna be earmarked, and we have enough funds associated with what's been earmarked to
Yep,
pay
and
for
then on
those
the bottom of the
projects.
capital
that's on the
sheet
note.
Yeah, I just wanna make, I
Yeah.
just wanted to,
on how we're gonna fund the match for it, yeah. The wastewater treatment plan, I think Kip lists, and the farm are listed on the 5-year, just as kind of holders, so the council can continue to see it, but they aren't on the actual
Right,
capital you
right,
see,
it's
because we
just-
don't know when, yeah. I think this year we're gonna be in the design process for the treatment plant, Kip, am I correct?
He sure hopes so, right, Kip?
And so there was other things, as far as a couple grants that they had put on the 5-year, but we didn't put in here because they're grant funded, so we're not sure if we do or don't get them. And so those were some of the differences between this and the actual 5-year. But if there's any, you have any because Kip and,
yeah, that's, I just wanted to make certain, again, that just the reconciliation between this and
And
that,
that.
that's all.
Right.
You know, because it's just about, for me, and I could go either way as far as just full disclosure, that here's the monies that we're gonna spend, and here's how they're funded. I think that's always good for full disclosure, to say, what's the capital investment that's gonna be made next year?
yeah.
And the
then-
sources of funds.
And the sources, because then it's full disclosure to say, to people who are watching this, to know that these are the streets that are anticipated to be done next year and the infrastructure underneath of them. It's just versus like, well, that's gonna be paid with other funds. I think the public needs to know that these are the things, because they're important things for the town that are gonna be invested in. It's just not based on our cash reserves.
So, and what I can do is I could even add another capital sheet that kind of just shows the distribution of funds of other pieces, like what's going to be paid for by grants, expectation, what we're kind of, yeah.
Because I think it's important, again, as it relates to like the stage area, the wharf. It's gonna be grant funded, but it's something that, if I was, a citizen watching this, oh, okay, well, we're gonna be doing that, and here, it's grant funded, which staff are finding and getting grants associated with capital investments in the town. So I think that full disclosure approach is the best to kind of, so it's
So
all there for everybody.
What
to
I'll do
watch.
is I'll have that prepared for next work session. I'll just add a sheet to the cap
Yeah,
so
if
we can
everybody
see it.
agrees, again,
Yeah.
it's just
Yeah.
my opinion.
Yes, that's great.
Yep, no problem,
sounds
I can
good.
do that. All right, any other capital questions? All right, and for me, the final piece I have for you tonight, Tanya put in the grants that she would like to request approval in lump from for the beginning. I attached it to the back of your packet. Most of these, and Tanya can come up, most of these are ones we apply for every year. We just like to get a mass approval of ones we know about, because we come to you each time we have a grant. So these are ones we know about, we know we're applying for, and we just want to make sure you're good with applying for them.
Good evening. So as you can see on here, the grants that are renewal are mostly the ones from 1 through 12. I just added 2 new grants for year of 2026. One is the NEA grant for the arts project, and one is for our boat pump out. So I was actually glad about this one. So those are the 2 new ones for our FY 2026 that needs approval. And if you guys would like to look at the ones that were previously approved last year.
Yeah, I just have one question about number 7. What do we mean by body armor?
Actually, that's not factual.
Yeah, it's actually, that's a typo.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a typo. So that was the PAC grant we had used last year.
extra zero in
And that's a typo, so.
Okay.
Those funds would be used for the annual subscription dues for the IA Pro and the
Okay,
Lexipol software that we had purchased.
You know how I feel about SWAT gear, so just want to make sure we're,
Oh, no, I just saw that.
been down that road before, chief. So
I just made notes on it.
It was not the chief, it was me.
Just double, it was, listen, the previous chief wanted it all. Right? Every ballistic, they wanted to be real militarized in Centerville for whatever reason, and I want to avoid that. So.
No, there was a grant that we were looking at to replace the concealable body. of it
Yeah,
at the time.
certainly, all the things to protect that sort of, but we don't need
But
ballistic
this
helmets
was
and
to
shields.
cover the annual subscription dues of the IA Pro and the Lexipol software that we had purchased.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions or concerns?
Thanks for what you're doing.
Yeah.
Could we possibly get a, I guess head count, I don't know what you call it.
A consensus on those?
Yes.
Yeah, is there consensus to allow them to
Sorry.
apply for these grants?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I just,
Summary as well.
Sandy, for your knowledge, we have a policy that they have to bring grants to us before they apply for, in the instances that going after a grant could determine policy. We went through it with the police with cameras in the past, things like SWAT gear, that sort of thing. Just because someone else will pay for it doesn't mean we necessarily want it. So they have to bring things to us first.
Terrific.
We like to get a mass approval, at least for
Yeah.
ones we know about. So we're not bombarding your regular meetings with grants all the time. So if you're okay, we will work for these this year, and then any new ones that come about, we will bring to you at council meetings. Yep.
I have one question. So if the council, everyone said that you were a consensus, everyone is fine with the zoning administrator. And I know that could change by the time you haven't struck your budget yet, but,
We hope not.
yeah, we hope not. In thinking through this, we want the zoning administrator at town hall.
Yeah.
So
Where are
that
they gonna
means
go?
someone's got to go, and it's Crystal. So,
We have to
Down
take
the
her.
Wharf building.
Moving me to the wharf building.
so she's going to go to the wharf building, and I wanted to see if it was okay. Gary got us a quote, same as what we did with Janelle's. Well, it's like a wall and a half that will be built if,
With the window.
yeah, with a window. If the council is okay, if we start that process, or would you rather wait until you strike the budget? That's all. I just want to know that. And either way is fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm okay.
okay with
Yeah, I think
Okay with
we're
that.
good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So are there, so this is constructing a new
Elmer,
office?
you moved out of your closet and then gone.
Yeah, so it would be similar, yeah, so if you're at the,
Moves me into like some dark.
yeah,
And we can cover the cost within the current,
within the current
year.
budget.
yeah, so we don't,
Okay, all right.
yeah,
I
we
was
don't need
just
to ask for
wondering.
extra funds.
Yeah, no, not for extra. We can
Okay,
cover it in the
got it.
current
Yeah,
budget.
okay.
Where's the space coming from, like the general area there with the
So where the,
conference
the
table?
conference table
Yep.
is, so Janelle, if you remember
Right.
Janelle's, office, it was built, a couple years ago.
Okay.
Right next to
So where
Ashley.
right,
Ashley's
she's like in the
office
front.
is, Crystal would be beside that, opposite of the room from Janelle.
With a wall and a
so-
half and a door.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
She
so
gets a door.
wall, and then, with the door there, we'll give her a door and she'll have a window.
We'll lock her in. The lock will be on the
Yes.
outside.
Right, that's good.
Yeah.
Next fiscal year, it'll probably be like the basement.
Yeah.
Town hall's attic.
Crystal and I used to share an office. Crystal and I used to share Gay's
used to
office
share Gay's
That's
together.
blows the mind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can we rent some space at the mill?
Oh, my.
Oh my God.
Hey.
Not for us.
I thought I could get
Hillside
through one
building.
day this week without hearing the word the mill. Maybe
Or
tomorrow.
Hillside.
I think I'd rather the basement.
All right, so this is all I had for tonight. Unless there's any more questions, I'll make these very few changes to the next work session, which is April 3rd at
Which is
a Thursday.
It's town council meeting night.
And yes, and it will be at the Liberty Building at 5:30. And I also will have the health insurance numbers added in at that point. I think we'll be at a place where we can call that our last work session unless other questions arise.
Karen, are you trying to end the meeting? Because I also needed to go over the
Oh, I'm-
health holiday.
I was
thing
saying,
that we
no, no,
discussed
no.
the
I
last
thought we
time.
agreed on that last time.
You wanted me to come to you with a one-sentence recommendation of when to implement the
Oh,
health
yes.
holiday. So I
Right,
just
that.
wanted
I don't
to.
think I wanted that.
I was just saying that I was done.
Oh, okay, I just
Yeah,
didn't
yeah.
want you to be like,
No,
okay.
no.
No, I did send an email out to all department heads to reach out to their staff. I gave, 3 options, whether they want it ASAP or 3 pays in August and the beginning of holidays, or do they want it around the holidays? And the general general consensus came back where majority selected option 3, so around the holidays, around the November, December pay period. So
Okay.
just wanted to bring that to your attention. I know you said just to come back with a recommendation. I didn't know if any.
Do we have consensus that Crystal can,
Yes.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I was like, whoa, I thought that was something that was done. Need to go backwards. It's like, we could talk about fireworks again too while we're here if you want, but. Anything else?
Done deal.
It's not. Nothing's a done deal. That's half a penny off your taxes, you know?
That's right.
Anything
Need it
else?
now.
Anything else on budget before we do another citizens forum? Okay. Are there any citizens that wish to address the council? Awesome. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
We'll now convene this March 20th meeting of the Centreville Town Council. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing for a moment of silence. Pledge allegiance. Thank you. All right, first up is agenda review. Are there any changes to the agenda, council? All right. Next up is review of past minutes. You have the March 6th minutes in your packet. Are there any changes or additions?
I just have a anybody else, sorry? No.
Okay.
Go for it.
So just on page 5, it's the table. I would just, the header as far as the revenue sources by type, should just say actual as of 2/24/25, I believe, versus, it's not for a full year, it's just
Right.
as the actuals year to date, just for the reader to know that. A small edit was on page 6, under B, third bullet. As the town develops, staff will have to help the system to keep up with demand. Very small nit there. And then I was mistaken, I think it was my fault.
Wait, where are you?
So on,
The system.
Yeah.
That's a style change. No,
okay,
I would write it this way.
okay, well, help
Keep
the
up with
system
demand.
keep up. Okay, fine, that's fine. And then on page 7, I was incorrect. I think I said 12 trees, but we're going to be 3 trees on Arbor Day. So my error there, I just wanted to make that known. That's it.
And could you just, I'm sorry, on page 5, what was the change?
Oh, to the table.
Just the table heading,
Okay,
actual FY
Date.
25 actual as of 24/24/25
Yeah.
or 2/24/25.
Right.
You'll see it back in the table, you know. from last
That
month.
one, we can add it as a bullet, but that was taken from the slide, which was not the.
Right, didn't have that. Okay,
Yeah, but we can add it, we'll add it in there.
okay.
Yeah, just so it's clear. Thank you.
All right, anything else?
I just have a comment about, I don't know, we should include only certain comments in the, citizen comments. We have text of 2 citizen comments. I mean, you did say that you should include them in the minutes, but I don't know if it's a good idea to go down that road, because it's like, we got to decide which ones you're going to put in, either do them all or nothing, and I
Right,
thought
because those were the ones that were read into the,
Right.
yeah, they were read into the, like, the record.
It's a
That doesn't
record.
have to be in the minutes. I agree, we should strike those.
Yeah,
okay.
okay.
Because we don't put a transcript of the people who come here, that we shouldn't offer people who don't bother to come, the
Yeah, that's just too much, right?
transcript,
But you can say
Read
that,
into the record but removed from minutes.
the minutes, yeah.
you can say you read
The
those
record
too,
being,
right?
tenuous.
Yeah, just you mention their names, but I wouldn't say what they
Okay.
said, but, yeah.
Sorry, the other one was on page
You
6.
guys are spending too much time at the planning commission.
Oh, sorry.
Almost done. I'm almost done. These are just, I mean, it's the correct
Just
one.
kidding.
I'm
So the
sorry.
general fund, the general fund chart is repeated twice.
Yeah.
I think you meant, there's another chart, you can go back, so it's
Yeah,
just.
the enterprise
it's fine.
fund.
It's just repeated
Enterprise
twice.
fund is the
That's
one I
all.
meant.
Yeah.
Good catches. I'm just kidding. We could do this for another hour, though, if it-
Yeah,
if you
no,
feel
I
at
don't
home.
want to. I'm
Yeah, we
good,
should be going
thank
to
you.
too many planning commission meetings.
All right, do we have a motion to approve the minutes as amended?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Oh,
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, great. We'll now go into citizens forum. Are there any citizens that wish to address the council? All right, seeing none. Appearances, we have Mary Margaret Goodwin. If you would like to come have a seat.
I want to introduce you, first of all, to Jessica Fleetwood, who is in the historic house that we all call the Tavern House. So she's my neighbor. She's the first of the historic homes to start work on her poster for what we're going to be doing in 2026. So I brought her.
Awesome.
No, I just asked her if she would pull your microphone closer to you as well.
So I'm just introducing her and bringing her as my specimen for tonight.
But we work well together.
Yeah, I need, oh, yeah. Okay. Okay. No, I've got this, because I made extra notes.
Okay.
I want to first say, first of all, thank you to everybody in the town office. Gail has really put up with a lot. And Tanya has really, I'm so looking forward to working with her. I really think that we'll be a good team. I want to go through quickly so that you can see what we're going to do. You've got the papers in front of you, but I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time with my breathing. But we're going to be talking, first of all, Centreville in the beginning. But it's mainly looking at how we started from the point of view of the Revolutionary War. As we go forward through the whole of the year, you're going to see each of the wars, whether it was Revolutionary, 1812, Civil War, World War I, World War II, each of those has been responsible for the major development after those wars, which is kind of the way America itself developed, but that's the way Centreville very specifically developed after each of those times. And that's particularly looking at how we began in terms of fire and water. In the beginning, there were no possible things like coal, much less electricity. So everybody had wood lots. And so having wood was a matter of wealth. And we had no way of getting water other than with buckets to your house. And your house wasn't with any drainage or anything. It was all with big jars and big bowls of water, whether it was for washing or food or cooking or whatever. And that would be done by the slaves. So we're going to have a way of showing all of that through a couple of different ways. But the water came from a pond which was down behind Hillside and part of the Mill Stream upper stream. And on Tuesday, I will be out with the photographer who's going to do the drone work that we put into our grant request. We're going to fly that whole area in November, but he's coming on Tuesday to have a first look at what we want filmed.
That's awesome.
So that we can, in November, when all the leaves are stripped, we'll be able to see, because the pond is still there, and I don't know if you're aware, hand-dug canal, because all of the wheat that was grown and taken to Chester Mill, you know the C&O Canal in Washington. We have a mini C&O Canal out behind Hillside, and we've been careful not to talk about it because we don't want a lot of people back there right now. But I'm just really pushing very hard to at least get the thing photographed. It's still very clear Okay, in February, we're going to be doing the reenactment from Y Mill to the wharf with the buggy and horses, or not the buggy, the wagon and the horses, and the pigs, live pigs, and the big drums of wheat. All of the actual food, pigs in particular, that were meant for Valley Forge were all taken up to the top of the bay called Head of the Elk, up in Cecil County, and then from there taken again by wagon to Valley Forge. But it was our food that got them fed just before they left in March to go back into battle. So very, very key food coming from here, from the Hemsley properties. So the Y Mill is really involved. And because the man, Richard Swetnam, who built the mill, he did such a good job on the mill that Hemsley gave him a 900-acre property called Chesterfield, and that is Centreville. And that's exactly how it happened. And then it came from Richard Swetnam all the way down to the two Nicholson women. So we'll take care of doing that presentation between Mary Nicholson and Elizabeth Nicholson and the division down Commerce Street, which was called the King's Highway. And Mary Nicholson took everything from Commerce Street towards Queen Anne's County High School, and everything from the courthouse green, which is why she was able to sell that property. But it would be a mistake to misunderstand that both women sold lots and took one for themselves. And one is at Chesterfield here, down Chesterfield Avenue. The other is the Turpin House. And we will, in March, be honoring women, in particular, Mary Nicholson, who was paid because people do not understand the Turpin House is the most historic property in Centreville. To this day, the room that was used for jury trials before the courthouse was built was in Mary Turpin's house. And not only that, she was paid big time. And I have all those records as well. For 3 or 4 years, she was paid. So it's not like we didn't have strong women even in the very beginning. So we will be doing in February the early Chester Mill and the black historic baseball teams, which hopefully we're going to have them reincarnated and play again. At least a demonstration game. In March, we're going to do the expansion through the years of the town development, and mostly the history of women, especially how they participated in events, because people think, well, it was only the men in the Revolutionary War. They wouldn't have made it without the women. And particularly at Valley Forge, because it was Valley Forge where the women, even from Centreville who were there, actually washed all of the clothes. So, April, it's total agriculture. And again, it's not about what we grow now, it's about what we contributed. And one of the really great stories is, and I think you will really like this from the wharf, in order to cut the grass, you had to have a huge scythe. And at one point, in mid-1800s, somebody came up with a scythe that was taller than a man. And they put it on the cover of the National Weekly newspaper, on the cover with the man standing holding it. Within 1 week, Dr. Turpin from Turpin Farm went down to the wharf, walked in the store, and said, I want that one. Because the store at the wharf already had it available. And how much did he pay? $300 in Civil War money.
Whoa. Wow.
$300.
Yeah.
But that is how all of his grass, all of his corn, that's how all of that got cut. Wait, I'm getting myself. Okay, April. Where's Mid? Oh, here we are. We're going to do, you will love this, health, fire, and ambulance services through the years, and burial services. How many of you remember a place here in Centreville called the Mattress Store?
Yeah.
You
right.
do.
Right.
You do. We took that store down. It's where the courthouse is now, the new courthouse is. And some of the wood from that building is on my house now. But more importantly, that is, the upper floor is where the caskets were made. He supplied all of the burial services and the caskets. There was like a big barn door on the second floor at the back of the building. He opened up the door, lowered the casket into the buggy, and off to the cemetery. They supplied all kinds of silk linings, top hats for the ushers at the funerals, black gloves, and so forth. And it was, but in the early days, we have that information as well. So the whole thing is, with the cemetery committee, we will be doing 2 times during 2026 an so-called outdoor museum for 1 day in the cemetery with placards on all of the graves of those individuals who were involved in founding and establishing and pushing and doing business and making Centreville the town that it is today. So everybody will know the store owners and all of the people who were involved. Then in June, Father's Day, of course, but it's dedicated, the whole month, dedicated completely to the businesses of this town. And every town will be able to post every business from day one on their property, the whole history of everything that was in that building, most of which I have.
Wow.
Okay. In July, 4th of July, Ashley, you're on again?
I'll be there.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
This is when, and any of you are invited to come and be one of the readers as well. We need 13 readers.
You should, it's really fun.
It's a mix of legislators, commissioners, American Legion, citizens, officials from the town, and so forth. And the other thing that we will really highlight is Jefferson would not have been president without Mr. Nicholson, who started from his mom's house at Chesterfield, came down to the road going from Centreville all the way to Kent Island, the boat to Annapolis, Annapolis to DC, and cast his vote, which was the deciding vote for Thomas Jefferson to be the president. And he was really, 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 really sick. And they were worried that he would die on the way home. He didn't die. He lived. And I have a copy of the letter that Thomas Jefferson sent to him, giving him his judgeship here in Maryland. So he was well paid. Okay. In August, courthouse history from day one. Well, let me back up. 4th of July, one more thing. And all of you will get a part, no matter what. We're going to recreate the 1876 that we did here in front of the courthouse, with the people who were on a float portraying George Washington and his wife, and so on and so on and so on. I have the list. I have what they wore, how they were, and we had, I think, I don't remember the number, but it was at the time the largest crowd that anybody had ever seen or could remember in Centreville. So it was a huge tourism draw. Then we're going to do a courthouse history display, but most of the time of August will be displays in the library. And then September, we're going to do primarily education and integration. It will be a difficult situation. One of the things that I find stunning, 13 restaurants in Centreville in the 60s. And most of them, if not all of them, denied African Americans entrance. At the counter in the corner where Edwards is now, the fountain, the black people could go in and make an order, but then they had to eat it outside. on the sidewalk. They couldn't remain in the building. We had some difficult times, but the most important thing to remember, where we have a wonderful school now in the old armory, that is where all of the ammunition was kept, not for here. It was kept for Cambridge and the Cambridge riots. And all of that armor and materials was kept so they would come here, get it, and then go to Cambridge and be not peacekeepers necessarily, but calm the riots. October, I'm really looking forward to. Not only do we have Centreville days, but the big memory will be horse racing and the fact that we joined with New York in the very early days. We had major horse racing out of Baird's Tavern, and George Baird, who was the tavern keeper, did the purses. He was also secretary of the Horse Racing Association. Purses in Revolutionary War times, $500 purses for first place in horse racing. And we're not talking about buggy racing then, we're talking horseback racing. But then buggy racing became really tremendous. So any of you who have gone to Food Lion know that yellow strip in front of the entrance to Food Lion that's on the asphalt. That is the edge of the backside of the horse racing track for the buggy horses. And those races attracted a huge number of tourists. But understand that we would only wish to do the number of tourists that they did for one big horse race that they put on out there in that parking lot where everybody parks to go grocery shopping. 60,000 people came for that one horse race that day, which if that figure that was in the newspaper is correct, that just, we could only wish.
Yeah.
November, Thanksgiving, very quiet. Everybody's got family. But what I'm asking is for every family in Centreville to write a letter, single page, 2 pages at the most, of what they're thankful for in terms of living in Centreville and why they're thankful to be here in Centreville. If they're not thankful, then that's okay too. But,
We prefer they don't write that. I think we should talk to character
But
counts
I'm
about
not-
that too.
Yeah,
Because character counts for November is Citizenship Month, and that could be a really cool
But
activity.
what?
In November, all the classes in elementary school talk about citizenship. And so it would be really cool to have character counts, have kids write these letters too.
I still don't understand. What?
So we could get young people involved in also writing letters.
Yes, yeah. But this is going to make a book. And we could include all of those as well. And that's, we're not planning, at the moment, we're not planning anything else for Thanksgiving except that. And then for Christmas, America's birthday party in Centreville. Lots of themes based on all of the history that hopefully everybody will have discovered in that whole year. I'd like that to be the theme, but
I love that idea.
it's not up to me to.
Listen, you know how hard it is to come up with a parade theme?
It's done.
Have it done for 2026 feels pretty good, Mary Margaret.
Whatever you want, but
I like it.
I would think that capping it off the end of the year with, because I can see kids doing all kinds of great things with
Yeah.
the various, even the horse racing can go on a float. And Dan, I didn't want you to think that I've left you off,
Okay,
because,
I'm sure you didn't.
He's been waiting and waiting.
Yeah, that's right.
oh, because there's one other thing that Christmas is all about, and it's the trains.
Right,
It's all about the trains.
it is for me.
So-
Yeah, that's
We're
right.
gonna, I don't know yet, I have some ideas. I don't know yet how we're going to do this,
Okay,
because you guys have the great train display down at the Narrows, but
yeah,
I do have some thoughts,
okay,
and those will be about kids and trains.
all right.
So, moms and dads, you might want to think about helping your children, including my two favorite young men, how to build their own little train of some kind
Oh, okay.
and be able to tell a story about it,
Yeah, that's a cool idea.
which
Anyone that wants to help the Kaiser boys build a train, just let me know. Sign up here.
so if you have questions,
No, this is just fabulous.
you-
What a gift you're giving to the town. I mean, this is amazing, the history that you know.
I still can't hear you.
So this is an amazing gift you've given to the town. I mean, it's just the amount of
Well,
work.
you raise a really good point. I do want to make it clear that this is my 30 years
Yeah,
of history work. And I've never, ever, not when asked, refused a town request when they needed something to
yeah.
help.
But no, it's just amazing the history that you have here and how you've lined it up. And it's an amazing opportunity for the town as far as to collaborate, you know, and just make certain everybody in the town knows about these events that are happening every month relating to the history of our town, because it's
Sandra, I thank you very much. My reason for doing this is that it's important to me. This has been the longest I've ever been anywhere in my whole life. And it's a very long time that I didn't just pick up and go do another swim or another run or other something. And I have done so much of the history work of things that people did not know about. And I'm going to end with this one story. From Centreville, a young man went to school, grammar school, privileged family, the Wright, W-R-I-G-H-T, the Wright family. Grew up on the family property. Uncles, cousins, grandfathers, all involved in Maryland and Queen Anne's County history, and then making Centreville a little town. He was one of the ones who was with George Washington in New York on the 27th in the one-day-long battle when the so-called Maryland 400 and there were actually many, many more than just 400. But this group of Marylanders frankly saved George Washington's behind. He was in the wrong place, and both the Howe brothers, one the head of all of the fleet, the other the head of all of the British Army. One thing, get George Washington and hang him, period. That was one day battle that was to be the end of the revolution from these horrible people here on the East Coast. And this group, and this one young man was among those people, those men who stood and fought. The man on the horse next to him, who was from Queen Anne's County, was blown with one cannonball off his horse and died immediately. This man was captured. Samuel Turbot Wright. He was kept as a prisoner in the hold of a wooden ship anchored in New York Harbor for prisoners. That was the prison for Americans captured in war. For almost 2 years, he was captured. He was there during the August and into the heat, through the cold of and then all of the heat of the whole next summer. And think about this. They had so little food, and it sounds gross, and it was worse than that, that in order to be able to eat when they were so hungry, there is a letter describing these men eating the lice from their clothes as their only food at the time. And he came home, and from that day, as he got back, he became Centreville Town Commissioner. His name is in the book. He was here helping the town. He was also Register of Wills. He also was clerk of the court, all at the same time. And I'm not finished. And he had a farm outside of Centreville, which he got from his wife, and he had cattle, and he was selling the cattle in Baltimore. He read in the paper about in Norfolk, the British had damaged the Chesapeake, the ship, the Chesapeake, and he saw the War of 1812 coming, and he wrote to his cousin, who was Governor Robert Wright from Queenstown, and said, we're going to have to repair our whole state of Maryland in order to keep the British from taking us over. And his brother said, be in my office tomorrow afternoon, 3 o'clock. He said, I can't. I'm in Baltimore on business. I'll get there as soon as I can on my way home. And so he became adjutant general in addition to being clerk of the court. Now, I did not bring with me, I meant to, TBI, I forgot to pick up the drawing, but as clerk of the court, he got very bored in the courtroom. I don't know, I've read some of those court cases, and I can tell you they weren't, I didn't think they were boring, but he was bored. So he doodled. But there wasn't paper to doodle on. He doodled in the record books. And I photographed all of them at the archives. And I have them now blown up. And they are so good. They are just, and one of them is a relative, and you can tell he wasn't like super crazy about this fellow, who was the judge. It was, and you can see these were real English people who were here. I mean, we've all changed as we've come through the ages, but you know these were the people who came by the boat and who were here as sharecroppers, who were here working. And we will have an exhibit of that. Yeah, so any questions?
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We really appreciate you.
Thanks.
Amazing, thank you.
And I will be coming to talk with you about the wharf houses.
Sure,
Yeah.
would love that.
All right. Next up, ordinance on
Yeah.
non-self-propelled vehicles.
All right. The proposed ordinance 01-2025, ordinance of the Town Council of Centreville to amend Chapter 158 vehicles, non-self-propelled. We all heard pretty robust testimony at our last meeting, and I don't know if you'll agree, but I picked up on two major points through most of that testimony. One was the burden on a citizen for compliance. If they were going to need to add a fence to park their vehicle off-street, or do landscaping, or those sort of things. The other point that I heard a lot of was enforcement and how we were going to do that. And I think at our budget meeting earlier this evening, we sort of took a stab at how we're going to deal with compliance in a more broad scope than just related to this. But based on what we've heard, I'm suggesting, I don't know if you have a copy of the ordinance in front of you. I'm suggesting that at the top of page 2, that section B, we strike that whole section. So it doesn't have any, there's be no more language on screening and fencing and so forth.
Okay.
For section C, a minor correction, I want to strike the words "in the home state of," but add the word "to," so that section C would say the recreational vehicle or trailer is operable and is currently registered to the owner or occupant of the property. So those are a couple of edits. They seem minor in terms of the number of words stricken, but I think they have a lot of meaning on that. A couple of points I want to mention. I don't have documentation to share, but it's my good understanding that Symphony Village at the south end of town and Northbrook at the other end of town both have homeowner association agreements that prohibit parking trailers
Our
on the street
covenants also prohibit it.
in Providence. Okay, very good.
They're not, we don't have an HOA, but it is in the covenants that run with the deeds in Providence.
Well, Northbrook is only phase 2 and 3. Phase 1 does not have a homeowners
Got it.
association, right?
Got it.
Yes.
Thank you for that clarification. Assuming the Northbrook thing,
Yeah.
the math, I don't know how to adjust for that, but I did some math earlier. So over 45% of all the residences in Centreville are subject to those Symphony Village and Northbrook restrictions. Over 40, almost half the town already has restrictions on parking vehicles in front of the house. So this shouldn't come as a great deal of a shock. There was a point in time I heard this story, and I can't remember which Supreme Court justice used this methodology, But one of the things that I recall from this story is that when presented with a situation like this, he would take a hypothetical to both extremes and think which serves the community the best. So if you take the extreme, there's no trailers on the street. And if you take the extreme that everybody has a trailer on the street, what makes for a better community for us? So I'm still in favor of moving this forward. I think that as a community, when you live in a community, we should all be, respecting the rights of everyone around us. I also think that there's a public safety component to this, of having the vehicles off the street, both in terms of visibility, of the ability to navigate traffic, the fact that trailers don't always have the same reflective lighting in all areas as motor vehicles do. So those are the two edits I propose to make this proposed ordinance better for our town.
Yeah, I like those edits. I also have been thinking a lot about the enforcement issue, and I honestly think this will be easier to enforce than the current must remain hitched thing, because that's like a moment in time issue. If, the trailer and our neighbor came and believes this is all about him, which, I guess if you want to believe that, but it's like a moment in time, right? It was unhitched that night, so he stood here and said, I'll comply with any law the town passes. Well, it was unhitched when he said that. So it's difficult, like if the code enforcement's not driving down Little Kidwell or Green Street at that moment, they're not catching that. And same with a lot of the other unhitched trailers. When Council Vice President Keel was working as code enforcement when he wasn't on the council, you counted, 58?
58 total.
Trailer violations in the town. That's
38 in Northbrook.
That's really difficult to police. Whereas I think if there's more of a, you can't have them on the street, that's going to be easier to enforce. You'll know someone's not provisioning it if it's sitting there unhitched for extended periods of time. So I agree that getting rid of the fencing and screening, I think that was largely what people brought up in their testimony, was the cost of that. I still want to know where one can get a $2,000 or $3,000 fence that someone mentioned in their testimony. Sign me up, I'll buy one.
Yeah.
But
Make it yourself.
I do wonder, so the 48 hours thing, if someone has someone visit them, I can think of a situation on Green Street where someone visits a Green Street neighbor once a year with a trailer, but they put it in their side yard, so I guess that wouldn't matter. They could do that, right?
Now, section D on page 2, I think that's a really important segment
Yeah,
of this.
I agree.
No occupancy, either temporary or permanent, of a recreational vehicle or trailer shall be permitted. Right. I don't know if that's where you were going with your comment.
Yeah, no, I'm okay with, I don't think it even the case I'm talking about. Where I was going is if someone visits you to stay inside your house, but comes in an RV, it comes in a camper, they have 48 hours though still under this, that they could be there.
Sure, yeah.
Okay. And I know people were asking about chalking tires and stuff. That doesn't help, right? You could move it a foot, you're still there. So it's like, we wouldn't need to chalk tires for this. It would just need to be observation and for people. I think also there's a lot of,
And it's best efforts, right? It's best efforts.
yeah, there's a lot of, I would say misinformation too. People believe, oh, it's because you have to move it in the event of a fire. That's why, I think there's lots of reasons why the existing trailer ordinance exists that have nothing to do with a fire or a catastrophe and everything to do with aesthetics in the town, and I think that's all right. So I'm personally good with those edits. I don't know how substantial they are in terms of need to re-public hearing this or what we need to do. I mean, we need a new version from Sharon regardless.
They lighten the burden, not
Yeah,
increase
you're
the
not
burden.
making anything more restrictive.
Right. So I wouldn't think it would rise to the occasion of starting over. So we tabled it for up to 60 days. So if council would like to reflect on this until our next meeting, that's fine. If we want to go ahead and consider it tonight, that's fine as well. I defer to the wisdom of the group.
Because it's on the agenda as discussion, I'd like to see it on an agenda with consideration there before,
Sure.
so if we could put it on the April 3rd.
You want an updated version by then?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
We're just striking things, so it shouldn't be.
Right. Only adding the word "to."
It's
otherwise
hard,
it's
yeah,
all-
getting
Bring
rid
up
of it.
one other.
Yeah, I got you, I got your, yeah, I've got you.
Carolyn has some things.
It's just removing the, adding the word "to" and crossing out in the
One of
homestead.
the items I think that was brought up a few times were the residents who don't have driveways. Is that what you were gonna?
Yeah, or backyards.
Or
I mean, Or
backyards.
access to a backyard, or
So I
any
think
of those things.
largely in those situations, that is a place where it's most unsafe to have. So I was talking to John, the mayor of Galena, over the weekend. You know, they don't allow it like at all on any through streets, like at all.
Well, okay.
And I think there's some benefit to that. Like, you think on 213 people should be allowed to have a boat or trailer parked there?
They do. Yeah, well, North Commerce Street, one of the guys, Tree Business, parked his trailer and truck on North Liberty. But he was good about it. He didn't put it like near the corner or anything, you know, he
Yeah.
put it in front of his own house. In some ways, what we're trying to do is
Is it
make
always
people have
hitched?
good behavior. Not everyone has good behavior. It's like, well,
I wonder.
And the people who moved into town, didn't expect this to become a HOA. They chose to live here because they possibly chose to live in the part of town where that wasn't subject to HOAs for that reason, so.
Yeah, I mean, you did move into a municipality though, where there are, a higher threshold of rules. I also, on that end, I did talk to Carolyn about wanting to sit down with the Bay Area Association of Realtors and really talk about like what are the things that are unique to the towns and to make that offer for others from COG to participate too, because I do think we have a real problem here with, we heard it from at least one person, but I just know anecdotally it's out there, of realtors saying things in Providence, like there's no HOA. Sure, but you should absolutely read the covenants you sign when you buy your house that run with your deed. And I think, realtors are misrepresenting what maybe be allowed in town because they're thinking of it as a rural area and the town has rules. And so it's part of that education about all the things, having some of that education with realtors in addition to our businesses so that we're not misrepresenting what the rules are. I mean, Dan, can you suggest a workable amendment to the legislation that would not cause absolute mayhem on like 213 trailer
Well, it seems like it's the issue of no driveway. I mean, you're imposing a rule that they have to be in the driveway, so I already have no way of doing it. So, I mean,
So just for my clarification, so that example you're speaking to, Dan, is in violation today?
no, because
if it's unhitched, it's in violation
Right.
today.
he leaves it hitched.
I'm making an assumption, I'm sorry.
Right, he does leave it hitched, right.
Oh, so
Well,
it's hitched, okay,
I mean,
sorry.
every
was
time
making- I
I've
was
seen it,
thinking it was
right.
unhitched.
And same with, there's another one on South Liberty, a construction business. He usually doesn't leave it on the street that long, but,
Right.
right. That is the old rule would be applicable to those situations. That's kind of the way it would have to be hitched and,
And I don't know a way around this, but the 48 hours, it's kind of, because some people have boats. They're not campers, they're boats. So they come home, about being out all weekend, they clean it up, leave it hitched up, and then they're going out again the next weekend. So I
I
don't,
actually think cleaning it up in the street is currently a violation also.
it is.
Yeah, I don't think you can wash a vehicle in the street in Centerville.
Look, I don't know that off the top of my head.
I don't know either.
I'm relatively sure. We'd have to look.
do it
but
my
I-
driveway, right?
Yes. But I mean,
If you have a job.
Oh, no.
I'm not saying we're all perfect, Dan.
See where we're going.
that's just my thoughts on the 48 hours. I mean, some people, like you said, I don't know how to word this, but the 48 hours is what gets me, is because, like I said, they have boats, and the boats go away in the wintertime. It's only in summertime when their boats are out. The campers, I agree with,
Yeah.
leaving, we know somebody who abuses it, and
We know multiple people that
yes.
abuse it. It's not
Yes,
about one
it's just
person.
not one.
Yeah, I have no issue
There's
with the
several
campers
people
either,
that
right.
abuse it, and
Yeah.
So I think the way the ordinance reads now, there's 48 hours for commissioning and 48 hours for decommissioning.
Right, so you could have it, You know, yeah, like Wednesday and Thursday, and then you go out on your boat, and then it's back Monday and Tuesday. You're saying you don't think that's enough time? You're saying they should be able to sit it there all summer? I mean, the problem is they're not leaving them hitched now.
Well, when I was doing code enforcement, the problems weren't boat trailers, because I would say 90% of boat trailers were still hooked to a vehicle, and I went out and checked them. The problem was with landscape trailers, any other type of trailer, and campers. That's what, so I don't know if there's an easy way around the 48 hours, because like I said, they're gonna come home, they're gonna leave their boat hooked up so they can come home on a Friday and go out on the boat all weekend. So that's where my concern is. And we do live in a boating community, but that's just my thoughts, and I'm only one person, so.
Yeah, I'm just thinking, because I don't know, I guess I'm more okay with the boats. It's the campers that really drive me nuts, especially because there's really no way to easily tell if they're being used as an accessory dwelling unit.
Yeah.
Especially if they're plugged in, or the slides are out, or the ladders are down, and from an aesthetic point of view, they certainly look like an accessory dwelling unit, whether they're being used that way or not.
And I think when I was doing code enforcement, I think I saw one boat that was not hooked up to a truck all the time, and that was in Ashley's community.
Yeah, right at the end of Little Kidwell?
Huh?
At the end of Little Kidwell?
No, this was in Providence Court, I do believe. Yes.
So I think standard maritime insurance covers a window of time from 1 April, I think, to the end of November, if I remember right, the insurance policy I had on my boat. So perhaps we could have an exclusion for boats during that window of time, but not year-round.
But you also need to have them hooked up still. They
Yeah,
can't be.
I agree. That would solve a lot of what was brought up to us about the wharf, that if somebody parks their truck and trailer there to go out for the weekend on a boat that they're staying on, that could exceed the 48 hours. If we said, as long as hitched, the boat trailers are okay in the summer.
Yes, put a
Yeah.
time limit on, just like you said, April to November, or October, I would say the end of October.
Yeah, I don't remember that.
Not many people are going out in November on a boat.
Right.
Of course, you could have a good day, but I would say put a time limit on it.
Right.
Yeah. And then other than that, they could still be stored in your side yard or driveway.
Yes.
But that doesn't solve, I mean, we can't solve, if we solve for everyone's situation currently,
yes.
then everyone gets to leave their stuff where it is currently,
Yeah,
and that's what the
exactly.
problem
But
is.
yeah, I agree. Yeah.
So, you know.
April 1 to October 31.
Yeah. Okay, so if you would work with Sharon or Will, or
Making notes over here, he's got it.
Sharon's gonna get back and be like, what have they done while I was gone?
Okay, well, they can be done or not, yes.
So,
I don't know
and
if
then
we can
could,
even limit, because it's boats, I don't know if we can do it, if we can even do it, because, just because it's a boat,
yeah, let's ask Sharon about that.
yeah.
You don't know off the top of your head. I mean, I think we can, it's a different type of
Seems like
trailer.
we're
We can
singling
police
out a
things
group of trailer,
differently.
yeah.
Let's look at it, let's have
Bring it up
discussion and
campers, so.
consideration on the agenda. If you have amendments, get with Sharon on them.
Okay.
Okay.
So you'll work on the ones that we've already gone over, but Dan, if you can think of something that doesn't make it so through the whole historic district, you could park whatever the heck you want, then get that drafted, I
About to
guess.
identify individual houses that are exempt. or
Grandfather
whatever
people
it
in,
is,
yeah.
You know, like, okay, we'll find a way.
Can I add one other thing if the council is okay? Under D on the second page, no occupancy, either temporary or permanent, of a recreational vehicle or trailer shall be permitted. Can we add on a public right-of-way or private property?
Yes.
It's intended to be comprehensive, but
Yes.
stating it
Stating
specifically
it
would be
specifically
helpful.
is very helpful.
Yeah, I agree.
I agree.
You said or public right away.
On a public right-of-way or private property.
Yeah, because we don't want you to park a camper in your backyard and make that a granny pod situation.
Exactly.
That's an EDU issue.
That's what I want to do.
Extra allocation, Kip says. And it's not
Stay
permitted
like that.
anyways, it's not permitted anyways.
Zoning violation, that's it.
Zoning, yeah, it is.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. So discussion and consideration on the next agenda.
Okay.
All right, new business, sewer capacity estimate.
Okay. We do this every year, and it's figured on a calendar year. We take the flows that the wastewater treatment plant has taken in or in discharge. You know, we calculate all that out to how many EDUs is left at the end of that compared to the design of the plant. We've come a long ways in just a short time in the past few years. The back sheet shows the comparison for 2022, 2023, 2024. I do have this all the way back to 2013, but in these 3 recent years, we've been on a downturn. I can equate a lot of that, which actually surprised me, to the streets that we have reconstructed, replaced sewer lines, laterals to the property line. We've also did a I&I study recently and found some areas that we fixed as well. We still have some more to do, but with the same number of homes operating, actually more as the years go past and development happens, the flow at the wastewater plant has actually come down. So compared to where we might have been, 3 years ago, we were down to like 100 EDUs, 130, right around that number. And today, we're at 468 EDUs or allocations.
And that would take us to 100% of permit?
Yes, that would take, well, you say permit, I have to clarify. The 542,000 a day is not a permit limitation, okay? It is a design, what that plant is designed and rated to handle and treated to the degree that our permit calls for. So if I remember, there's only in the neighborhood of 10 to 20 wastewater plants in the state that their flow is rated and is a permit limitation. So, and that came directly from our inspector. So anyhow, with that being said, if you look, you can go down the page and kind of see, we take into account vacant lots in the town. We take into account proposed stuff that is proposed and on the table right now, and the EDU calculations for the way that those developments or properties are proposed to be used. We actually, if we know there's a possibility of more development happening somewhere that hasn't been brought to the planning commission or the council yet, that we've also added them in the case that it does come. All of that's included into these calculations to give us the 468 allocations. So with that being said, and we were at 83% a few years ago of the design capacity of the plant. This takes us down to 80%. And you'll see the years further was down a little bit lower than that as well. But even though we're at 80%, that requires us to do the capacity management every year. And to do that, you use the past 3 years of discharge. Those numbers calculate what the percentage of your plant is, and that's the way it's calculated for the state. So.
Okay. Couple questions. So the YMCA on here, that's what's already been approved for them, but they actually need to come back for more, right?
Where it's showing there, that's phase 2. Yes, that's already approved. And
They need more for the pool house or something, like significantly more?
no, they need more for their actual
The current
usage.
building, okay.
Their current usage.
But that's in the flows, but they do need more EDU, okay,
Yes.
got it.
So,
okay.
okay,
Any other questions for Kit?
and
Thank you for doing this. It's
Yeah.
very
Yeah, this is
helpful.
great,
Good.
extremely
Very good.
helpful.
I think we've said before, we've also worked on the allocation policy, and we'll be finishing up the capacity management papers as well, and bring that to you. So the next step that I want to work on is also recommendations for the allocation charges. We have a firm number on what it's going to take to build or a close number of what it's going to take to build this new wastewater plant. And that's how you calculate in to adjust your allocation fees. So, right?
Kip, does the I&I study get done every year, or is that every,
No,
whenever you ask for it?
yeah, it's basically whenever I ask for it, and we've been doing sections as we do it. We did the South Interceptor, which we thought was the one that we were really having troubles with.
Yeah.
And there's a few spots in it, but it wasn't the problem child that we thought it actually was. There is a problem on 4H Park Road, and that's taking not only those houses, but also the houses in Weatherby, behind the houses at front on there. The one that we're kind of troubled with right now is the North Interceptor, and that runs from Railroad Avenue near Little Hut and goes all the way down through the woods around Turpin Farm down to Gravel Run Stream.
Yep.
And comes out through the DPW yard and the driveway for that and the police station. So we know we've got some issues there, but we even have bigger issues getting equipment to it to be able to do anything with it, so.
Yes.
And when will the allocation policy come to the town council? The next month, 2 months?
We sent it to Sharon, and we're just waiting for
Okay, so
the
Sharon
attorney
has
to
it.
get
And
back.
we still have to update the capacity management, so, and that's
That's an exhibit of the
allocation.
Got it.
allocation policy, so.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.
Great.
All right, next up, ordinance 3-2025. This is the restructure of CETA. So this is just a first reading, and it's set for public hearing when?
It will be April 17th.
Great. It's the same makeup that I shared with you all before, with one addition, so it was an even number, because Main Street should be non-voting, so added just a third resident. Instead of 2 residents interested in with experience, it's 3. So we'll look forward to the hearing on that.
There was a reference to a brick and mortar business. Did you intend to restrict that to a brick and mortar within the town limits?
Yes. Yeah, so we should add 2 town-based brick and mortar business, 2 owners, like whatever, however, I don't know. But yes, because they don't have to live in town, but they have to own a brick and
Or
mortar
business,
business
probably
in
has
town.
to be a town.
Yeah,
We'll just keep town-based in there and strike out,
Oh, yeah, right.
yeah,
Yeah.
owners up, and then, yeah, okay.
Yeah, just put that back in.
okay.
And we're going to appoint the initial chair? Is that, we're
We're
still
gonna
going to do that? We are going to, the council's going to appoint the chair? Or are you just
The
going to allow
first
them
one
to
is the
figure
way
it
it
out?
was written before,
Let them duke it out.
and then after the first one, then then CETA would nominate from within their ranks.
Right, so
Yeah, because they would have to develop their rules and things like that. I
we should
guess.
probably do the first one again with the restructure.
Okay.
Okay. Cool. Reports of boards and commissions, Maryland Municipal League.
Same 2 topics are front and center, the upcoming summer conference and the legislative session with the General Assembly.
Okay. Council of Governments.
I actually have nothing tonight because I forgot my notes, so I will report next meeting.
You don't remember what happened?
No,
Okay.
I write notes down, and I forgot my book, so it's my fault.
Okay.
I will report next meeting.
Okay. Economic development, we sort of just covered. Park Advisory Board.
Yeah, there hasn't been any meetings since our last, and we have a meeting next week, so
Okay.
we'll update the next meeting.
Planning Commission. Sure you have
Well,
nothing.
the planning commission met last night. They had a public hearing on the comp plan map changes. And of course, no one testified, and so the planning commission approved it by resolution. I guess it's a new technique. They'll provide a resolution that says they approve the changes to the map. And so now it's our turn.
Okay.
So, then the hillside development was approved with revised signage. They presented a plan last night that was different than what was in the packet that showed the sign being, seemed to be smaller and located a
But it's
little
still
further.
that green thing.
It's actually black.
That came out.
It
The
does
paint-
look
the-
green,
the-
but it's black.
It's a visual thing because of the orange color of the text makes it look kind of green. I think that's what it is, but it was black. It's black. They said it was black.
Okay, but
The
like,
text says it's black.
this feels like that, like black or gold dress thing, but it
It looks very green.
it
on
looked
the bottom there.
green and the last sign looked black, so I struggled with
It was
this, but
talked- It was
They
discussed.
Hey.
they said on the record that it's black.
we'll take them at their word, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, they asked about that. So,
I mean, if they want to look like a John Deere dealership, that's on them, but,
Yeah, that came up, but no.
okay.
and in addition to a whole list of things that the approval is subject to, including the buffer mitigation, notification of the floodplain issues need to be notified when the residents move in. They were concerned about the liquor license being in a mixed-use building, and they had already talked to the county about that, it not being an issue, because they didn't want to be surprised by that one. And the county stormwater and state critical area approvals, so.
Okay.
And there was initially in the site plan, it showed the town had property on the north side of Mill Stream, a little bit between Hillside and the stream. This was all last week. It was a mass deed researching and all of that. It was figured out and determined by quite a few people that the Hillside's property actually goes up to the middle of the stream. So they do own to the stream bank, so.
Okay.
And the town is only on the south side of Mill Stream, so. Because there was a portion of like stone from their stormwater piping that would go over that section, which we thought was town property, but it is not.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Anything else?
No, that's all. Oh, there'll be a work session on March 5th, so.
Well, April 5th. No.
April.
April
right.
5th is a Saturday.
Well, I was like, well, he still got February. It's like, oh, it's not February anymore. It's like, yeah,
April
no,
2nd.
April 2nd, then, right.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're gonna fix that for him.
And they're gonna work on the
Oh,
T and D then?
Sorry, Phil.
All right, clock's ticking on TNT, right?
And, yeah, I mean, I don't,
Look, perfect, Jack's too.
Yeah.
okay. Reports of department heads, town manager.
I received an email today from our lobbyist. I will forward to the council. The House Appropriations Committee voted on the budget this afternoon, and they included a document that lists the tax provisions that were adopted. So I will forward that. I got it right before I came over here, so. Yesterday I attended ESAM, Eastern Shore Association of Maryland, event, I guess, they had at Eastern Shore Land Conservancy in Easton with Senator Alsobrook. So that was a good conversation she had with everyone, and so
Was it
glad I
well
went.
attended?
What's that?
Excuse me, was it well attended?
There were
Pretty good?
there were about 20
Oh,
20
nice.
of us, so yeah.
Yeah, I think it was
Ocean
meant to be
City
kind of.
was Cambridge, Trapp, Chestertown. So yeah, it was a good group of
Cool.
Salisbury. So yeah,
Anything else?
and that's all I have.
All right, chief of police?
Good evening, everyone. In reviewing the month of February 2025 for the Centreville Police Department, I think everybody has a copy of that review in their packet. You'll see to the right side in that chart with the green headers, the numbers for February were slight increase over the month of January. And that had to do with, we had a little bit more officers on the street. They weren't in training and they weren't sick. So that's why you'll see an increase in numbers there. Under the traffic enforcement activities section, you'll notice that there were 222 motor vehicle warnings issued, 42 citations, 34 safety equipment repair orders, and we have a section there for 20 commercial motor vehicle inspections that were completed. That number I expect to steadily increase over the months. So the Centreville Police Department, we had talked about how we had a second K-9 that was certified and now actively on the road. Well, we also have a second commercial motor vehicle inspector that is out and about. So we have one that's on Group 1 and one on Group 2, so we'll have one steadily working 365 days. What we found is in that, the reason why I mentioned that is we're trying to reduce the amount of commercial truck traffic that comes through this town, because what we have found is they're diverting off of Route 301 to avoid the scale houses, and they're diverting through our town, and that's not making deliveries or bringing business to our town. It's just they're traversing across our roadways, which ultimately is causing more destruction on our roadways. Ultimately, those size vehicles are also trying to make turns on tight roads that's not meant for that type of vehicle. We've had destruction of poles, utility poles, buildings themselves. So we're trying to reduce all that as best we can. So we have inspectors out there, but it's not just about diverting them, but it's about the safety of the vehicle on the roadway.
Right.
So just in a short amount of time, we had this second inspector out here. We've put probably at least 10 to 12 commercial motor vehicles out of service due to safety violations. And it's not just one or two, it's a plethora of them. So ultimately, I mean, that's part of the reason is we're out here to educate, but we're also out here for the safety of our community. And when these trucks run in through our town and significant weights, I mean, destroying our roads and so forth, and then to include all the safety issues with the vehicles, I think it's in our best interest to keep up that enforcement.
Oh, I totally
Especially,
agree.
Thank you.
I know my neighbors on Liberty Street really appreciate it because it makes our houses shake when,
Yeah, I
these
mean,
large vehicles come through.
Yeah, I mean, even
And I don't know if you check the weight, you can't, can you check the weight?
Yes,
You can
so
check
they
the weight
do
and
actually,
everything?
well,
Okay,
so one of our
right.
inspectors has the ability to do the weights and scales.
Okay.
The other one has not made quite to that level of inspection yet, but he
Yeah.
intends to.
Okay,
But yeah, it's ridiculous because as we sit here with our businesses, you know, our houses, the residents, even the
Right.
police department, as they come down the bottom of the hill, and we know how great a shape that building is. The least little bit of rumbling that goes through there, I mean, it's just constant wreaking havoc on the structure, so.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
we're-
no, I totally support it, just quality of life in town,
exactly.
just, you know,
I mean,
just decreases it.
So that's part of the reason why I brought it up, just to, you know, give the council a little bit of enlightenment is what we've been doing. Below that, you're going to see the red speed, automatic speed camera enforcement. That's one of the lowest numbers we've seen in a while, and that's with all three cameras operating. It issued a total of 23 speed violations in the month of February. Now, I'd like to say that is behavior change, as we have said that multiple times here recently. So I'm going to keep an eye on that to see where those numbers
Well,
go
now there's
from
only
here.
two, right?
Say again?
There's only two right now.
cameras, one got taken out, right?
Well, that was just the other day. There was a hit and run accident, which we have identified the person that was involved.
Say the camera didn't catch the,
Yeah, I would like to say that would happen, that's what happened, but, you know, they left nice tire tracks over top of it as they
Yeah.
drove over it, so.
They ran over top of the camera.
So that camera is now in the possession of Red Speed. They're working on to see if it's repairable. If not, we'll have to have a new camera installed. We are looking to get that up and running. He gave me a tentative time frame of maybe within the next month, getting that camera reinstalled, so. But the other two are still functioning fine. Under the complaints and incidents, we had 11 assaults involving domestics, a couple malicious destruction of properties. We had 14 canine scans, and that was just with one of our canines. That wasn't with the second one certified. He didn't get certified to the beginning of March. So since this is February, that was just with the one canine officer. So we expect those numbers to increase as well. 9, assist other agencies. That could be the state police, natural resources, Queen Anne Sheriff. Most of those assists could be just a backup officer, but here recently it could be, we found that they've used Spanish interpretation by one of our officers. We also have utilized our female officers for searches of other females for other agencies where they didn't have one available. So it encompasses quite a bit. 4 911 hang-ups, 5 check the welfares of theft, and a lot of the residential patrol checks that have been requested by our agency. The special assignments, one of the things that we attended in February was the 24th Annual Fallen Hero Memorial Event, which, if anybody doesn't know what that is the memorial that encompasses the fallen officer for the Queen Anne County Sheriff's Office, Deputy Jason Swintz, along with our very own Michael Nickerson. So they've been putting this on every year for the last 24 years, and I was very privileged to be in attendance. You know, it's something that we all need to think about on a day-to-day basis, especially our first responders. So we had a meeting with the school bus administration at the school board in reference to the complaints that we have been receiving from citizens in our town about parents parking too close to stop signs, school buses that might have been speeding or in violation of certain traffic laws in town. What I got out of this meeting was more, we put everything out on the table as to what our complaints are, what the school buses are complaining about, what the school board might have seen, what us as the town has seen. As far as solutions, there wasn't a whole lot of solutions that was come up with in that meeting. It was more venting and airing out what we have seen. Ultimately, what we have found is we've got more community members coming here, which is great. However, we don't have the real estate to put the people, especially in our school zones. The elementary schools have had the same real estate for quite some time, with more kids coming every year. So it's just hard to maneuver with that amount of traffic. We looked at, ever since COVID, we've had a lot of remote workers or stay-at-home moms or parents that are now wanting to take their kids to school, so instead of putting them on the bus like they used to do. So now you've got a lot of vehicular traffic that's now impeding flows than you used to have. So there's a lot of different things that come into play, but there wasn't a lot of solution-based discussion there because it was hard to come up with a solution for what we got going on. But we had planned on setting up another meeting, I think, in the next couple of months to really hammer down on that, to see where we're at. One of the things on behalf of the town and the police department specifically was we have officers out there trying to issue citations to any type of vehicular traffic that might be impeding the flow or blocking intersections or too close to the intersections, anything that they see around the elementary schools. They're trying to do some extra enforcement. So we did that on behalf of the town, see how that works, and see if the behavior change with that takes place. But usually that's a 2 or 3 week period, then they get right back to what they were doing before. So we're hopeful. And then we had Lieutenant Larimore was down at the Eastern Shore Criminal Justice Academy teaching our, future of recruits in defensive tactics and de-escalation. So he does that typically on average every other month. So we're proud to have somebody from our agency participating in our future recruits and training them. So, but other than that, that was a wrap for us.
Awesome.
Is there any questions or concerns?
Thank you.
Nothing. Thank you.
Great report. Okay, Director of Public Works. Oh, man. Here we go. Oh,
He
no.
didn't bring a book with him. He didn't bring a book
I
with him,
didn't
so it
bring the
can't be that
book,
much.
keep this as brief as possible. DPW and Centreville Police, and we're hoping that Goodwill Fire Company would like to put on a touch-a-truck event
Oh, I love that.
for the kids.
Kip, you scare me when you come up here, man, and then touch a truck.
I know.
I'm like,
I forgot that's what he
what's
was gonna
broken?
talk
Where
about.
is this about to go?
So we were, so far, we've just gotten together one time and talked things over. We were hoping to find a place within the town limits to hold this, but once we kind of mulled over a rough idea of number of vehicles that might be there, I don't think we've got a place that we can safely fit everything and the kids away from
And
traffic.
not even the high school?
I'm sorry?
Not even the high school?
The high school's one of the thoughts, yes. The problem is right now, we're looking at the end of May.
Oh, so
and there
it'll be
will be a rain
time,
date.
yeah.
So it could be sports events going on, but that is one of the places that we were talking about.
You have any amount, you don't know how many trucks yet, do you?
No, just what we kind of mulled around, we were thinking of probably 30 plus. So when we got thinking about who we're actually going to invite, we're also going to put this out so that people can apply. And if we get more than what we're thinking, it may be even more. I haven't talked we haven't talked to anybody with Queen Anne's County, but White Marsh Park is another thought that's close to
Yeah.
town. But again, we'll have to see how that goes with ball season and stuff.
Well, I love it. I
So-
think that's a great
And
idea.
because I also think you need an area large enough for possibly a helicopter, maybe,
Maybe,
right? Yeah,
So-
to land.
yes. You
I
can
think
tell
it's such, I mean,
somebody's
you know,
excited.
anything that puts the police and the work that the town does in front of people more. Like, I love that the town participates in the holiday parade now and those things. I think it's important for people to see what their tax dollars are investing in.
So,
Cool.
So if we can call this a town-sponsored event, because it's mainly
I'd say.
because
I mean, do we have consensus
that's
that they can
how,
engage
what
in a
we're
touch a truck?
thinking of.
Yes,
So,
Awesome.
okay.
And Gary needs to showcase his vac truck.
I
so-
know.
Oh,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah, well, with the back
he-
truck.
Have to.
Gary was actually the one that, discussed it first.
Yeah, I mean, I think
so.
the back truck especially, like for people to understand what that does and that we used ARPA funds for it and kind of how the town works with, I mean, I think that's cool.
Oh, yeah. So,
Awesome.
thank you very much. Greatly appreciate it.
Appreciate
and
you being here with
we'll
good
keep
news,
you
Kip.
updated. Okay.
So you don't usually get to deliver a lot of good news.
No.
I like that for you and us.
Yeah.
Town clerk,
I have nothing.
Main Street manager. We added Carol, like I said earlier tonight, it's kind of like a department head type situation. It's like falls in a weird spot. Carol and I had a conversation about the events and thought you suggested that you might like to be in front of the council more, and so I said, let's do that. And so just like the other department heads, she, in consultation with Gay, she can use this part of the agenda at her as her needs dictate.
Great. So just a few quick things. Since the last time that I was here, met with a gentleman at Bowl and Goat. We're talking through their 45-minute VIP experience before our Maryland Makers event, and food pairings involving our restaurants. That also brings me to bringing the restaurants together again. Last year I had a couple successful meetings talking to them about how to best leverage our events and what things I can do for them. I'm a little, this time of year, especially right when the dock bars open, our restaurants suffer. And so, they were very happy with St. Patrick's Day, but this is the time where it starts to go down. So, meeting with them about some interesting promotions. I think we can expect, and it should be interesting statistically to see how many people sock away their tax refunds and hold on to it because they might be not sure what's going to happen in the next few months. So we want to do everything that we can to make it easier for them to spend money in Centreville. So looking back on some of the more successful things during COVID, where restaurants were doing family pickup dinners and things like that. So I was thinking a dinner and a show. And maybe like a multi-week thing where each week is maybe a pickup dinner, or the dinner and a show would be you pick up dinner and then they get a streaming card so they can watch a movie at home or something like that.
Yeah, that's cool.
And then also like a family game night. Along with your dinner, you get a gift card to Central Gaming. So again, tying in our businesses, taking into consideration that we may see very different spending patterns in the next few months, and how can we combat that? So I'll be bringing the restaurants together to discuss that. And finally today, I met with George Harvey at QACTV to explore how we can work more closely together and plan out a whole year worth of stuff. So they know, George says, oh, I go through the circular every time I get it. So he stays on top of things that way. But to let him know things that he can plug in when he needs things, things that are related to events, so that we can better leverage that resource as well.
Awesome.
So that's what I've been up to.
Great. Any questions for Carol?
No.
Thank you so much.
Great, thanks.
Appreciate it. All right. Citizens Forum? Okay. Don't everybody jump up at once. Council Roundtable, Council Vice President Keel,
Nothing.
Councilmember Beecham,
So at our last meeting, I attempted to abstain from a vote,
Yeah.
and I got summarily thrashed for that. So I did a little bit of homework since then.